You just have to hear the music. It takes you somewhere. It could take you back decades. Just those memories of growing up with it being in your life, and that's because it's the world's longest running sports show now. All began back in the first week of 1948. It's been aired from 5 till 6 p.m. on a Saturday evening ever since, and it's been all around the dial, moving from the BBC Light programme until 1964. Eventually, by 1970, it was on what had become then BBC Radio 2, then from 1990 to 1994 on the original BBC Radio 5, and since then, of course, right here on BBC Radio 5 Live. And we can get some real stalwarts of the programme here, some more stalwarts than others. The longest serving presenter of the programme, for goodness sakes, from 2000 to 2016, Mark Pougatch. Good afternoon.
Well, at least you didn't call me a veteran, Chris. I'll settle for that.
I was very close to it. Good afternoon. Our football correspondent John Murray's with us as well. Hello, John.
Hi, Chris.
And a man who did his fair share of presenting on the show from 1977 to 1980, Jim Rosenthal, is with us as well. Hello, Jim.
When you said just turned 70 and still in great shape, I thought you were coming to me, but there we go.
Not quite, Jim, not quite. And we've also got Mark Williams as well, who's with us in the studio. He's both produced and edited sports reports, so Mark can give us an idea of what it's like on the other side of the glass. Hiya, Mark.
Hello, Chris.
Good to see you. Right, well, Poogers, tell us first of all, well, look, why is it so special?
Oh, there are so many reasons, aren't there? It's longevity, the fact that it was the first to market all and all that. It's longevity, it's humour, it's authority, it's breadth, it's gravitas, and the fact that it's always there. And an increasingly multi-layered, complex broadcast world of TV, radio, online and everything. The fact that it is still so well regarded and so many people still listen to it is a tribute to everybody who works on it. And people like Mark in the studio in there, they're going to tell you awful stories about how terrible we are when we're out in the field and how utterly technically incompetent. Well, I'm talking about myself, not Big John there. I know
Mark's nodding his head a bit,
It's a tribute to just what the affection that all of us have who work on it and worked on it, and I'll have it forever. Just because I don't work on it now doesn't mean that affection is any less. It just holds a place in people's heart. And the other reason, of course, is that for all of us, we all remember growing up with it. And that's a big thing. You know, my dad wasn't a massive football fan, but he was a massive sports fan. And he used to clean his shoes to Sports Report. Yeah. Saturday evening, 5 o'clock, there he was, got his little box out of his polishes and his brushes, and he would lay out his shoes for the week, his black shoes for the week, and he would clean them. And so the first time I did Sports Report, all I could think of was that image, which was incredibly powerful for me, actually.
And actually, Jim, we're getting so many of those kind of stories as well, by the way, Mark, is exactly the same kind of thoughts. But, Jim, you've really grown up with it because you were born at pretty much the same time it launched, weren't you?
I was born a couple of months before the first show, so forgive me if my memories of that show are a little bit hazy at the moment. But, yeah, sure, I did grow up with it. And I would agree with what Mark said there, that anything that lasts this long and has that enduring quality has to have something very special about it. And just driving up north today, listening to all the phone calls coming in to your show, and everyone saying, "I can remember exactly where I was when this happened. I can remember exactly what I was doing when the SIG was playing," and I think it's lasted this long. Things only last this long if they're of genuine quality. Lots more opposition these days, of course, than when I did it in the late 70s. But it's still fighting its place in a corner, and it's still flourishing.
Now, do we all want to have a little bit of a laugh at John Murray? I think we do. John... Actually, do you know what? I wish it was longer ago, John, this clip we're about to play. But this was 20 years ago, right? Yeah. Do you remember where you were? The 50th anniversary of Sports Report?
I do, yeah, I remember very well.
Yeah. Emily against West Ham. Ian Payne was presenting it then. He's introducing you. Should we hear this? This was your match report on the 50th anniversary
I probably haven't heard this for 20 years.
Well, go on, let's hear it and then get your reaction.
And how about Emily of the Unibond League? Well, they almost did it. They lost 2-1 at West Ham. John Murray.
The biggest day in Emley's 94-year history, and they'll be talking about it in the village on the hilltop for another 94. The whole village, population 1,800, must have been here. They came in fancy dress, firemen's helmets, and brought banners, flags, and even an inflatable version of the giant TV mast that towers over Emley. When Frank Lampard fired the Premiership side ahead in only the 4th minute, though, we thought the non-leaguers would be buried, but not a bit of it. West Ham couldn't hit the target, so the Unibond League club showed them how to do it. 9 minutes into the second half, Ian Banks's corner, and Paul David with the header right under the noses of the Emley folk, who danced and danced in delight. West Ham switched to a 3-man forward line, but Emley hung on and on until John Hartson appeared 2 yards out to head the winner with 10 minutes to go. His 18th of the season, finally killing the dream. But Emley substitute Mark Wilson wore a T-shirt which read, "Bayek, who are Emley?" Well, now we know.
John Hartson from 2 yards. That sounds surprising, doesn't it?
John Hartson. John Hartson, who we obviously now work with on a regular basis, which is how the world works.
It is. Why does everybody's voice always sound like it's just had a slight injection of helium when it was, say, 10 or 20 years ago?
Yeah. But that was the 50th anniversary programme, which obviously 50th anniversary programme we made a huge song and dance about, and that was my very first season working as one of the football commentary team at BBC Radio Sport, and that turned out to be the top story, the first report on Sports Report that day. So I felt enormously honoured and privileged to be in that position in a programme that has set the template for sports broadcasting, the crowded marketplace that we have now on a Saturday afternoon and 24 hours, 7 days a week. Many of the ideas, the original ideas, came from Sports Report and also BBC Radio Sport. Last year we celebrated the 90th anniversary of the very first football commentary, which was also on BBC Radio. So, it's being a part of that broadcasting history that I think means such a great deal to all of us as well.
And actually, on a practical level for you, John, you don't have that much time, do you, to turn around your report? It must be a real art, I always think. I mean, how does that work?
Well, some things change massively, and some things really don't change that much. And the first producer, the man who devised the idea of Sports Report, Angus Mackay, this Scotsman who was uncompromising, really strict disciplinarian, he would not be trifled with. And in the early days, and the reporters, people like John Arlott and Alan Clark were involved in the very first Sports Report 70 years ago. They had 2.5 minutes, believe it or not, to report on their football matches. But the point is, in terms of change, they could only take football reports on matches that were close to BBC studios. It actually began at 5:30 originally, and so the reporters had that time to get to the studios, think about what they were going to say, compile their reports and deliver them. Wow. And now Mark Williams is sitting there with you. Mark, if I'm doing the 12:30 match, Mark will very often say to me, "Can you get to a BBC studio to contribute to Sports Report?" So in 2018, I will find myself racing across some city or down a motorway in order to get to Sports Report in time to speak to Mark Chapman.
Well, that's what you signed up to, isn't it?
Lucky because he's got the time to. John's quite lucky then because he gets a chance to to kind of get over in time and listen to the programme. But for the reporters whose match, and they finish later and later now. So if a match finishes at sort of 5 to 5, if you're lucky, 3 minutes to 5, you've only really got sort of 5, 6, 7 minutes to get all your kit from your broadcast position in the stand down to the tunnel, plug in, get yourself composed, ready to do your report. Sort of 7 or 8 minutes after you've left the stand.
Do you remember when you were first kind of put in charge of it? I mean, what was that feeling like when you first heard the music? Were you like, all right,
oh yeah,
this is on me?
Yeah, you kind of get nervous. Even now, you get nervous beforehand, and it's you just knowing how many people are listening and relying on what you say and writing those headlines, especially when things are finishing later and later. You try to be quite punchy with them. You try to be clever sometimes with them, but above all, you need to be accurate with them because people are relying on what you're saying there.
And is it frantic? Because I've done a bit of the behind the glass stuff before I ended up on this side of it, and people always go and watch. If you want to know how to do this job, go and watch the Sport fellas, because when you're going around the grounds and all that kind of thing. But I guess that extends into Sports Report as well.
No, it does, because you don't know. I mean, John didn't know for sure that he was going to be the first item at Emley that day. You don't know until the matches unfold, and sometimes there could be late goals. So things are changing all the time. So it can make it a bit frantic, a bit chaotic in the studio, but it's kind of testament to the presenters and the reporters for being so calm that if you're listening at home, hopefully you don't notice how frantic.
That's the idea.
What's going on behind?
That's the idea, isn't it? And Mark, I think we all sit there in amazement and think, Mark Pougatch, the longest-serving presenter. But it's the truth. It's there in written form. But look, I mean, in all seriousness, when you look at the people who have been involved over the years, Eamon Andrews for almost 10 years, Des Lynam for another 10, Mike Ingham, John Inverdale, Ian Payne, you've outdone them all. You know, these are real big hitters of the industry.
Well, it makes me very proud to have done it for as long as I do, and anything that any of us have done subsequently in the broadcast media. I mean, you're talking about Eamon Andrews and Des Lynam, two of the greats, and and I have the highest regard for John as well, of course. Anything that any of us have done beyond that, maybe in television, it all flows back to Sports Report, doesn't it? Without Sports Report, there's none of it. Without BBC Radio, there's none of it. So in terms of what it sets you up to do, and the same with Jim, with all the television work that Jim has done. It all starts in the same place, Chris, doesn't it? And it just shows I suppose it shows what doing Sports Report and doing Saturday Afternoon equips you to do, because it's a live program. Obviously, you have no idea what's going to happen next. Obviously, when John's doing the commentary, we do. But as soon as you're in the bits in between, you have no idea what's going to happen next. You've got to be able to think on your feet. You've got to be able to trust everybody. And I always say this to Mark. And these people, I mean, I just want to mention them. People like Mark and Simon Fote does it now. Graham McMillan. Claire McDonald was my first producer. She was absolutely brilliant. Caroline Short. I always said the same thing to them. Just tell me what's going to happen next. Don't tell me two down the line. Because A, it would have changed, and B, I'd have forgotten because I'm stupid. So just tell me what's happening next. It's all we need to. And in all seriousness, Chris, the joy of what we've done in the last 10 years is we've taken it on the road. And of course, with technology, you can do that. So I would be at Accrington, or I'd be in Mumbai, or I'd be in Beijing, or I'd be at Blythe Spartans with a pen behind my ear, a phone and a piece of paper. That's all you need. Right, let's do it now. We can do this.
But that's what you love. How does that compare for you, Jim? Because in a way, you know, people sometimes say, oh, don't you fancy giving TV a go and whatnot? And obviously Mark does loads of TV and you've made your name very much in TV, Jim. But there is a beauty about radio in a sense, isn't there? About what Mark's describing there. You know, it's kind of seat of the pants and that's why we like it.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I've probably been slightly erased from BBC history because I crossed the divide and went to commercial television. So, but what I learned on...
Nothing wrong with that, Jim.
I know, hey, you work for everybody, by the way, Bruce. I don't know how you do it, but well done, old chap. I doff my cap to you. But, I mean, there's a couple of things about that we haven't mentioned so far. It's not throw it in the air and be indisciplined. You have to have discipline on Sports Report. You have to have a discipline as a broadcaster. Angus Mackay, who got a mention there, the originator, and he would say, right, a minute report. Now, let me tell you, no matter who you were, if you did 62 seconds, and those were the days, there would be a letter on your doorstep on the Monday morning. Can you please explain your unprofessionalism? And a bit like these days, two yellow cards, you didn't appear again. Now, I would hope it's slightly more flexible these days, but you still do need that discipline. And I remember my biggest memories really are the voices, and radio is all about distinctive voices. You've got a couple on here today that as soon as you hear either Mark or John, you know exactly who it is. And I was absolutely privileged in the era of Peter Jones, Brian Butler, Chris Martin Jenkins, Peter Bromley, Larry Canning reporting in the Midlands, Bill Bothell in the North. Now, these names won't mean anything to anybody probably under 40, but trust me, they were absolute broadcasting heavyweights who lived in an era where you made your reputation by what you did and what you said on Sports Report.
And look, if we're talking about voices, of course, we have to talk about the voices of those who have given the classified results over the years. And, well, we'll get your reaction, Mark, because from 1974, of course, through to 2013, the late James Alexander Gordon, the great James Alexander Gordon, read those. And here he is talking to you, Mark, and then Jag himself on his unique style of score presentation.
First, the classified football results as ever, read by James Alexander Gordon.
Barclays Premier League. Manchester City 3, Sunderland 0. Swansea City 2, Reading 2. West Bromwich Albion 3, Queen's Park Rangers 2. West Ham United against Arsenal. I end up at the BBC, I'm a staff announcer, and then one day the boss comes in and says, nip over and do the footy. I went into the sports room and they handed me this list, and I looked at the list and thought, what do I do with this? All these names and numbers. I had studied music early on, and perhaps I thought, if I get a rhythm to it, it'll make it easier to read. Millwall 2, Bolton Wanderers 1. Peterborough United 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Hull City 1.
If the home team had won, I was going to be delighted they'd won. Manchester United 2, Arsenal 0. I was very sorry for Arsenal. And of course the other way around, Manchester United 0, Arsenal 2. A little smile in the voice.
Stevenage 1, Scunthorpe United 0.
Made it an art form, didn't he, Mark?
It was absolute genius. And the thing was, if you love football, you got it straight away what he was doing. But if you didn't, and lots of friends of mine would say, I don't really like football, I can't quite work out what he's doing. And as soon as you explain to them what he was doing with the pitch of his voice, they loved it. And they say to me the next thing, I get it. I know exactly after the first team's score whether it's been a home win, away win, or a draw. It was absolute genius the way he did it, Jag. I mean, there genuinely never be anybody ever like him again to do it in that manner.
Talking of characters, I mean, what are the characters, from the actual game that stand out from their contributions to the programme over the years? John, what comes to mind?
Well, I remember one of the things that you have to do as a commentator or a reporter on Sports Report, Pat Murphy always calls it shepherding, because you have to gather the managers around to, at the various grounds. I remember one in particular, Ron Atkinson. I managed to get him so I could put the headphones on him so he could speak to, it was Ian Payne at the time, and Ian had a tendency to throw in the odd cheeky question here and there, which didn't always go down terribly well. And when you're the one who's standing in front of the manager who has received that question, and I can't even remember what it was that Ron was asked by Ian Payne, but it went down very badly. And you know how he is perfectly coiffured hair, Ron Atkinson, and he grabbed the headphones off his head. His hair went everywhere. He threw the headphones at me, threw the mic at me, and said, sorry about that, Ron. I have no idea what had been asked.
What about you other guys? Jim, any like those that come to mind?
Well, I can tell you, I operated in the era when Nottingham Forest and Derby County, and Brian Clough was the man we always tried to get on Sports Report, and Forest would win a game, and it'd normally be Alan Parry actually would go to Brian Clough and say, Sports Report, no thank you, young man, Brian Clough would say. And Alan did it about 3 or 4 times, and Brian Clough kept saying no thank you, and Alan in his forthright Scouse way said, look, Brian, this is a complete waste of time. I keep asking, you keep saying no, let's sort this out. He said, next time, I'll do it. Next time, young man, I'll do it. Yeah. So sure enough, Forest win, we go, we're going to get Brian Clough here. And Alan goes to him and said to him, Sports Report, no thank you, young man. But you said, I know I did. I'm a liar.
Oh, for goodness sakes. And Mark, same sort of thing, the characters.
I think what I remember really clearly, and there's just the ability. I mean, John describes it very well, the shepherding, which is always very entertaining, because you can imagine, quite understandably, Chris, some reporters want to do the interview themselves. So that's quite an amusing little aside. Listen, that I remember vividly a time just before the England-Greece game at Old Trafford, the famous David Beckham goal game. About 3 weeks earlier, Michael Owen had got injured, and of course, I think it was Claire was producer time, said, listen, this is we need to reflect in Sports Report. This game's coming up in 3 weeks' time. And the way that it worked, we got 4 former England managers in a row live on Sports Report, who were then all currently managing in the Premiership as it was. So we had our friend Graham Taylor, we had Bobby Robson, we had Glenn Hoddle. I think Terry Venables probably the other one. And I just remember thinking at the end of it, that is the beauty of radio. That is brilliant work from everybody out in the field. And if you're in the car or at home listening, you're thinking, wow, they've just interviewed 4 former England managers in a row live. And of course, I was talking to them about their game. But, the last question was England in 3 weeks' time against Greece. What would you do? Oh, Kevin Keegan was the other one. What would you do if you were the England manager? Because Michael Owen wouldn't be able to play. And I just, they gave us all a great answer. I just remember thinking that is really special that a radio programme can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we've got to end it there, but thank you so much, all of you guys. Thank you very much indeed.
Great memories, Chris.
Thanks,
very much.
Great stuff. And
Thanks, Chris.
You know, it's a crowded marketplace, but let's hope for many more years of Sports Report. Thank you to Mark Pougatch, longest-serving presenter, our football correspondent John Murray, and to Jim Rosenthal as well, and to Sports Report's current editor Mark Williams. Got a busy weekend with the third round this tomorrow. And if you want to find out more about Sports Report, there are more memories and features on the BBC Sport website. And don't forget to tune in to tomorrow's 70th anniversary programme at 5 o'clock, of course, here on 5 Live.
It's FA Cup third round Saturday, and this is 5 Live Sport. "25 ties take place today, and we start here on the northwest coast with Fleetwood Town of League One out to make a name for themselves.
I'm Nathan Pond, Fleetwood Town club captain. It's going to be a tough game, former Premier League champions. History could be made if we do manage to beat Leicester and get into the fourth round.
Full commentary of Fleetwood versus Leicester on the way from 12:45. Mark Hughes is under pressure at Stoke. His team are struggling, and the FA Cup has sent them to Coventry.
I suppose everybody will be gearing up for a potential upset. We'll have something to say about that. We don't want to be on the back pages with the wrong headlines. We want to be there for the right reasons, having progressed to the next round.
That's our base from 3, but we'll go wherever the story is this afternoon before we head to Carrow Road at 5:30 for Norwich against Chelsea.
Josh Murphy could be in here for Norwich, digs it past Macy, and Norwich are ahead.
William Berry down on goal and scoring, and Chelsea are in front.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Chapman at Highbury Stadium, Fleetwood, on a very special day on 5 Live.
Good evening and welcome to the 984th edition of the 5 o'clock show.
Tonight, Sports Report celebrates its 25th birthday. Launched on January the 3rd, 1948, it's since become the longest-running sports programme of them all.
Happy birthday to us. Sports Report has got 50 candles on its cake today.
You're listening to Sport on 2 this afternoon.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
That red second hand goes forward.
It's coming up to 5 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock in the morning in Chicago, 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK.
Now the time is 5 o'clock
on a Saturday afternoon.
Time for
Sports Report.
Time for Sports Report.
And this
is Sports Report.
It's the familiar sound of Out of the Blue and Sports Report.
And 70 years on, I'm delighted and honoured to still be able to say it's 5 o'clock and this is Sports Report. The headlines on FA Cup third round Saturday. Coventry make it a grim afternoon for Stoke.
Oh, what a goal by Jack River! He's beaten Jack Butland, and Coventry City of League Two have retaken the lead, and Mark Hughes is a manager in real trouble.
Bournemouth equalise in the dying moments to deny Wigan an upset, whilst Fleetwood earn a replay here against Leicester. Sergio Aguero scores twice as Manchester City come from behind to beat Burnley. Wolves and Swansea both end with 10 men after playing out a goalless draw at Molineux. Newcastle, Watford, West Brom, Huddersfield and Southampton all see off lower league opposition, while Peterborough come from 1-0 down to knock out Aston Villa from a division above. Away from the football, 16-year-old James Bowen becomes the youngest winner of the Welsh Grand National with victory on Ras de Marie. And England trail Australia by 133 runs after day 3 of the 5th Ashes Test. Reaction to the day's main stories to come ahead of commentary of Norwich against Chelsea in the FA Cup third round from 5:30. But first, on Sports Report, the classified football results with Charlotte Green.
The Emirates FA Cup third round. Aston Villa 1, Peterborough United 3, Birmingham City 1, Burton Albion 0. Blackburn Rovers 0, Hull City 1, Bolton Wanderers 1, Huddersfield Town 2, Bournemouth 2, Wigan Athletic 2, Brentford 0, Notts County 1, Cardiff City 0, Mansfield Town 0, Carlisle United 0, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Coventry City 2, Stoke City 1. Doncaster Rovers 0, Rochdale 1. Exeter City 0, West Bromwich Albion 2. Fleetwood Town 0, Leicester City 0. Fulham 0, Southampton 1. Ipswich Town 0, Sheffield United 1. Manchester City 4, Burnley 1. Middlesbrough 2, Sunderland 0. Millwall 4, Barnsley 1. Newcastle United 3, Luton Town 1. Norwich City against Chelsea, late kick-off. Queen's Park Rangers 0, Milton Keynes Dons 1. Stevenage 0, Reading 0. Watford 3, Bristol City 0. Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Swansea City 0. Wycombe Wanderers 1, Preston North End 5. Yeovil Town 2, Bradford City 0. Sky Bet League 1. Charlton Athletic 1, Oldham Athletic 0. Northampton Town 3, Southend United 1. Oxford United 1, Blackpool 0. Plymouth Argyle 3, Bury 0. League 2. Accrington Stanley 4, Chesterfield 0. Colchester United 1, Cheltenham Town 4. Forest Green Rovers 1, Port Vale 0. Grimsby Town 0, Morecambe 2. Vanarama National League. Barrow 1, Tranmere Rovers 1. Bromley 0, AFC Fylde 1. Dagenham and Redbridge 4, Hartlepool United 2. Dover Athletic 1, Aldershot Town 2. Eastleigh 4, Guiseley 2. Ebbsfleet United 0, Chester 1. Gateshead 0, Sutton United 2. Leyton Orient 0, Boreham Wood 0. Macclesfield Town 0, Solihull Moors 0. Maidenhead United 0, FC Halifax Town 0. Woking 4, Maidstone United 4. Wrexham 4, Torquay United 0. Ladbroke Scottish Championship. Brecon City 1, Greenock Morton 1. Dumbarton 0, Dunfermline Athletic 1. Falkirk 6, Dundee United 1. Livingston 0, Queen of the South 1. St Mirren 1, Inverness Caledonian Thistle 0. Scottish League 1. Airdrieonians 0, East Fife 0. Alloa Athletic 3, Albion Rovers 1. Ayr United 1, Arbroath 2. Queen's Park 2, Stranraer 2. Wraith Rovers 2, Forfar Athletic 1. Scottish League 2. Annan Athletic 0, Montrose 1. Cowdenbeath 0, Edinburgh City 2. Elgin City 2, Clyde 1. Stenhousemuir 1, Peterhead 4. Stirling Albion 2, Berwick Rangers 0. JD Welsh Premier League. Carmarthen Town 0, Kevin Druids 1. Connors Quay Nomads 3, Barry Town 0. And finally, Llandudno 1, Bala Town 1.
Thank you, Charlotte. Well, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we began our FA Cup third round the grounds at Coventry City. They were at home to Stoke, but we said we could go wherever the story was. Well, it turned out that the story was at Coventry against Stoke, as the League Two side knocked out their Premier League opponents by 2-1, and Ian Dennis witnessed it.
Well, few neutrals will begrudge Coventry City this upset, a club in decline over the last decade, but this was a day to savour inside the Ricoh Arena. The result increases the pressure on under-fire manager Mark Hughes, but you can't accuse his players of not playing for him. They had the chances, but they were squandered. Either that, or they came up against some heroic defending to keep them at bay. Willis headed Coventry ahead after 24 minutes. Charlie Adams' penalty equalised 9 minutes into the second half. The Premier League side were fortunate they weren't just the one goal behind at half-time, before Jack Grimmer fired in a winner midway through the second half, beating Jack Butland inside his near post. The focus may well be on Mark Hughes, but do not mistake that Coventry City also deserve their fair share of the headlines.
Chris Waddle watched the game alongside Ian Dennis, and Ian's in the tunnel at the Ricoh to get reaction as soon as he can here on Sports Report. Just some of the reaction from Coventry fans. Chris, Jack, we defended so well. I lost count of how many blocks we made at 2-1. Chambo, so proud of our boys. We gave it everything. As a fan, that's all you can ask of your players, that they give it everything.
Yeah, that's all they ask for, honesty. And you hope on the day the players who have got that little bit extra quality can produce. And, the start of the game, and I thought, wow, Stoke's going to walk this game first 10 minutes. They were all over them. They had time on the ball, and you thought, giving them too much space, too much time. Then after 10-15 minutes, they grew into the game. Coventry created a lot of chances, went one up from a set piece. And then from then on, really, they were in the game. Yes, they've had a lot of defending to do. They've had a lot of blocks, a couple off the lane and whatever, wasted chances by Stoke, but they always carried a threat themselves.
Here are the Stoke fans' reaction, Ian Dennis. Jamie, embarrassing. Hughes not fit to manage us, half the team not fit to wear the shirt. Rob, I just don't see how Coates can stand by Hughes after this. John, absolutely painful to watch. Do you think there's a lack of replacements available, and do you think that's one of the reasons why they're being so patient?
Well, I think before today there was concern in the boardroom. They were already looking at managerial options. But I think that the one thing that strikes me from the outsider looking in is that if you think, are those options under a consideration currently employed? Otherwise, why not make a movement? So there must have been a degree of faith that the hierarchy still had in their manager, Mark Hughes. It's never straightforward to try and bring in a manager if he's employed elsewhere. I think he was obviously going to come under real pressure today. I think had he won, he was in a no-win situation. Had he won, it was expected. The thing is, he needed a good win. He needed a convincing win. That hasn't happened. It increases the pressure. It makes his position, we're getting very close to the stage where it's almost irretrievable.
Chris Waddle, would you go along with that?
Yeah, I can see a lot of it. Again, it's who's available, who's going to come in. Sometimes, you see a lot of turnover with managers now in the modern game, and it's sometimes, you've got a group of players. Sometimes you've got to point the finger at the players. I know it's easy to say the manager this and that. They tried today, but sometimes they need a fresh voice, a little bit of change in training. It's something where they've got to prove to earn a new contract, to keep in the team, to get the appearance monies, and all of a sudden it changes. And we've seen it over the last 10 years. It's getting every lifespan as a manager is very, very short. And as Ian's just said there, he needed a convincing performance today. He put a strong side out. And yes, he didn't have any luck. We'll give him that. It's FA Cup, but he's still people look at that and say you should beat Coventry City.
We'll try and get reaction from Coventry before 5:30 when we're going to go to Carrow Road for Norwich against Chelsea. Just away from the action today, the Daily Telegraph's Jason Burt has tweeted in the last 20 minutes or so that Liverpool's Philippe Coutinho is understood to be close to completing his move to Barcelona. He stayed behind as his teammates travelled for a mid-season break to Dubai, and it looks like the fee could be somewhere around £142 million. But Philippe Coutinho's move to Barcelona is looking closer this Saturday evening. Back to the football, and the bookies' favourites for the FA Cup are through to the fourth round. Manchester City beat Burnley by 4-1, but at half-time, Juliette Ferrington, it was a different story.
It was a bit of a scare as well in the first half, with Manchester City gifting Burnley a 1-0 lead, but it came all together in the second with 4 goals and a place in the fourth round, as you say. 2 goals in 2 minutes from Sergio Aguero set them off, one on his right, one on his left, put City ahead. Lovely little 1-2 with David Silva led to Sané scoring City's third, and then Sané laid the ball onto Bernardo Silva for him to place the ball into an empty net for their fourth. But Pep Guardiola staying true to his word, he named a strong team as the belief continues to grow around here that the quadruple could well and truly be on.
We're going to go to Bournemouth next. League One leaders Wigan, the visitors there. And it was the League One side who very, very nearly made it straight through to the fourth round. John Southall.
Absolutely. It was a terrific cup tie, chappers. That's the first thing to say. Wigan bridged that 29 place gap. They defended heroically as the game wore on. But as you say, they just couldn't quite hang on. It was heartbreaking, the 92nd minute. A Mark Q cross from the left-hand side. And there was Steve Cook 5 yards out to head in to save his side. Now, the last thing that Bournemouth wanted was a replay. Just seeing their manager, Eddie Howe, down here. And he admitted that, but did also also say, we're taking this seriously and we will take the replay. 2 down at half-time through Grigg and a Heinemann own goal. Musek gave Bournemouth hope in the second half to bring one back before Steve Cook saved it right at the end. But controversy, should Ivan Toney have had a penalty when they were 2-1 up Wigan in the 89th minute of the game? You have to say it looked a very difficult decision and a harsh decision not to give it. We've just had a brief chat with Paul Cook, the Wigan manager, and he said it was an easy decision to give, but the referee didn't give it, and we now look ahead to the replay.
OK, John, thank you very much. That's the League One leaders dealt with. The Championship leaders are also going to a replay. Wolves held 0-0 at home by Swansea City. Sahil Sahu.
A real scrap between two teams who were separated by one place in the football pyramid. Wolves were dominating and only 3 athletic saves by Chris Northall kept the scores level. Swansea, from a Martin Olsen free kick, rattled the crossbar. Then came the red cards. Ruben Vinegra first for Wolves after a late tackle on Nathan Dyer 5 minutes before half-time. And midway through the second half, a reckless trip by Swansea's Leroy Fer on Helder Costa evened up the red card count. The replay at the Liberty should be an interesting watch if both teams can keep 11 players on the pitch.
Norwich against Chelsea then at 5:30. So that means Jason and Robbie in 606 will be here around 7:30. We'll open the lines about 5:30. 08085 909 693. And I'm sure they will be hearing from happy Peterborough fans after they won at Villa. Pat Murphy.
When your best player's your goalkeeper and you still concede 3 goals, then you can have no complaints. Jed Steer kept Villa in the game, particularly in the first half. His legs saving Villa's bacon twice. Liam Shepherd headed against the bar, and basically Villa were just hanging on, even though they'd gone ahead early on through Keenan Davis. It looked as if it wasn't going to be Peterborough's day as Villa started carving out chances around the hour mark. But then 3 goals in the last quarter of an hour gave the scoreline a realistic sheen. Jake Marriott smartly headed in the equaliser. Ryan Tafazzoli's towering header was deflected in, and then a perfectly worked breakaway goal as Madison's pass found Marriott. 4,500 ecstatic posh fans celebrated with their players, and make no mistake, they deserved this one.
So Peterborough of League One into the 4th round. As far as League Two clubs are concerned, Coventry through. That's the story of the day after they won at home to Stoke. Notts County won at Brentford. They're through as well. Mansfield and Carlisle need replays after they drew with Cardiff and Sheffield Wednesday respectively. Stevenage also need a replay. They were held 0-0 at home by Reading. And Yeovil, the other League Two club, through after they beat Bradford by 2-0. We're still at Fleetwood this afternoon. This game was the 12:45 kick-off, and it finished goalless between the League One side and Premier League Leicester. As Uwe Rosler, the Fleetwood manager, admitted afterwards, his side could have snatched it late on.
The shot on the post, I think we had numbers of headers from corners. We looked dangerous on the break, and I think everything started today with our pressing. I think when we go about our business like we did today, I think any opposition find it difficult. That was a platform for us today to show ourselves collectively, but also individually, and that is all about our football club. I think our chairman unfortunately wasn't here. He would have been proud of his players today, but also of the fact that he wants to build a football club, a fan culture, and when you saw today the full house and what a fantastic atmosphere was here, he would have been very proud.
And I think it would have been deserving for Hunter had he got that, the last minute goal.
Definitely, I think the front three were terrific. It was a lot of hard work in the first half to press them, to keep them away from the goal, and we had some terrific counter-attacks, and Hunter ran himself into the ground, and unfortunately he couldn't reward himself with the goal.
You know that old cliche in the Cup, don't you? Or they've missed their chance now. They won't get a chance in the second game in the replay. What would you say to that, Uwe?
I tell you one thing, Andy Pilley will be delighted with the replay.
Jonathan Pearce with the questions. Andy Pilley is the owner, chairman of the club, who couldn't get back for this game because of the weather on the east coast of America. So he had been on holiday. He couldn't fly back because of the weather. Obviously, Jamie Vardy has a close connection with this club, and he was the guest in the chairman's box today. He was injured, so he couldn't play. Andy Pilley on his Instagram has put up a great photo of Jamie Vardy FaceTiming him on his holiday during the game. And the other thing about Jamie Vardy is they have a vice president here at Fleetwood, Ted Lowry, who's in his late 80s, not very well, couldn't make it to the game, and Jamie Vardy asked where he was during the course of the game. They explained the situation that he was ill and couldn't make it. So during the game, not only was Jamie Vardy FaceTiming the chairman, he put a call in to the Vice President, Ted Lowry, as well. Let's go to Carrow Road, Norwich against Chelsea. A 5:30 kick-off here, full commentary to come. Pat Nevin will be there for us this afternoon. What do Chelsea have to worry about today then, Pat?
Well, if they're going to have a look at Norwich, they've got a couple of players that I like a great deal. Pritchard, former Spurs lad, very good player, scoring quite well just now. Murphy is on fantastic goal-scoring form, and Madison, a player I went to see a good deal when he was in Scotland, when he was playing for Aberdeen, and he was for a period of time one of the best players in Scotland. So they've got creative players up front. Problem is, they ain't got a centre forward there. They've left Olivero on the bench and put another centre back in there, which is a slight disappointment because Chelsea have made 9 changes today, and maybe this was a wee opportunity to have a go at Chelsea.
Madison, a former Coventry lad, of course, so he could have a doubly happy day if everything was to go to plan for him this afternoon. Despite those 9 changes, are they looking strong, Chelsea, or are there a few kids in there?
Well, Courtois, Hazard, Kanté, Fabregas and Morata all not playing, only Morata on the bench. However, if you can bring in Pedro, Willian, Batshuayi, Drinkwater, Bakayoko and Zappacosta, it's a very, very strong 1-11. The youngest player, I suppose, would be Kennedy there, who's coming in the left wing-back position. So no, it's a very, very strong 1-11. They've got Caballero in goal. However, the bench is looking much, much younger for Chelsea, and there's a bunch of players there that maybe not be household names yet. The likes of Charlie Masonda, Clark Salter, Ampadu, Dujon Sterling and Hudson-Odoi. So, Chelsea, you would suspect they may have set some big guns on the bench. Well, there's only one big gun on the bench, it's Morata. They suspect that will be enough, but I'm a wee bit disappointed that A, 1 or 2 of them didn't start today, and B, Norwich didn't go with a striker, an out-and-out striker, because if ever were Chelsea were there to be beaten or given a go at anyway, it's away from home and a game like this when some big names are not playing.
Back with Pat Nevin and Conor McNamara in around 10 minutes for Norwich against Chelsea. Now, a few were going to St James's Park this afternoon and maybe expecting a shock as Newcastle took on the League Two leaders Luton. Free scoring Luton, but the Premier League class showed in the end, Steve Crossman.
Yeah, it did. Finish Newcastle 3, Luton 1, just when you thought that Luton Town might have something to say in this tie. They had this crazy 9-minute spell where Newcastle scored 3 goals, and really it was very, very difficult for Luton to recover from that. Not that they didn't give it an incredibly good go in the second half, and Danny Hilton, with his 17 goals this season, he was superb in the second period. One great finish, almost had another, but it was disallowed for offside. Haven't had a chance to see it again, but it was very close. I've just had a quick chat with Rafa Benitez, Mark, and of course we spoke about the fact that I imagine every single Newcastle fan reminds him every time he talks to them that they haven't won anything since 1969. Actually, just outside the press room here, there's a list of the top 10 Newcastle scorers. None of them were playing when they last won a trophy, not even Malcolm McDonald, who's wandering back and forth through the media facilities here. An FA Cup would mean everything to Newcastle United, and actually Rafa Benitez, the one time he won it, Luton Town were the opposition in the third round when he beat them with Liverpool, and he told me just now that he's hoping that can be some kind of totem, some sort of symbol for them.
Nice omen. Thank you very much. I told you the League Two sides that have got through, and we've given you some results, but other sides that have gone through in the FA Cup third round today, just in case we don't get details for you before we get to Carrow Road. So Middlesbrough, Birmingham, Hull, Huddersfield, Rochdale, West Brom, Southampton, Sheffield United, Millwall, the MK Dons, Watford, Preston are the other sides through, aside from the League Two sides that I told you about earlier. Other games will be going to a replay. Let's go to Pat Murphy at Villa Park, who has the manager of Peterborough with him, and Peterborough will be in the fourth round. Pat.
Grant McCann, you deserve this.
Yeah, we were outstanding. I thought we delivered the game plan, what we wanted to do, and it'd have been a catastrophe if we had to come away here not getting the win, but pleased to send all the fans home happy.
And that breakaway goal, that third one, reassuring you, but what a perfectly timed pass and finish.
It was. I mean, that's what Marcus Maddison has done this season, and that's what Jack Murray has done. Marcus has got 24 assists, Jack's got 23 goals. The two of them are deadly in this league, and we're lucky to have them.
And Grant, you won this, if I may say so, in the posh manner, playing proper football.
We did. We didn't want to have any regrets today. We wanted to make sure we put on a good performance. We wanted to pass the ball, we wanted to move, we wanted to create chances, and I thought we'd done that.
You did all that. Congratulations, Grant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Grant McCann, the Peterborough manager, live on Sports Report this Saturday evening. Let's just switch to the racing, because the 16-year-old James Bowen made racing history today when he became the youngest jockey to win the Coral Welsh Grand National. Bowen guided to victory the veteran Raz de Marie, now jointly the oldest horse to be successful in this race. And our correspondent Cornelius Lysett is at Chepstow.
Yeah, James Bowen from Pembrokeshire, West Wales, son of trainer Peter and brother of jockey Sean, rode the 13-year-old Raz de Marie, who came here last week for the original postponed Welsh National, went back home to Ireland, returned today, rode him to a 6-length win over another veteran, Alfie Spinner, in second. Bowen, just 14 years and 1 day older than his mount, survived being impeded by a faller at the first fence before storming to what goes down as a famous victory.
Oh, it's amazing. I thought I had a good chance, but after the first I didn't, that's for sure. You know, he didn't go anywhere, but you know, he stayed on through horses and he's really loved it, and he still really enjoys the game, and he jumped well, so it's class, yeah.
James Bowen is tipped for the top by many good judges. Today's result served only to underline that potential. So, young potential featuring on the 70th birthday of a good old radio programme like Sports Report. How appropriate.
Cornelius, thank you very much. Let's get more live reaction to the day's football now and talk to the manager of the side who have probably made the biggest shock of the day, and that's Coventry. They beat Stoke by 2-1. I'm delighted to say Mark Robbins has put the headphones on to talk to us on Sports Report. Evening, Mark.
Evening, how are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, more to the point?
I'm very, very, very well.
What pleased you most about your side today?
I think that we went toe-to-toe with them. I think we were good value for the win. It wasn't like we were hanging on. I think in the first half we came in and we were could have been 3-0 up. You know, without a shadow of a doubt, we had some good chances. So there was a tinge of a little bit of disappointment, really, because we could have maybe made it more difficult for Stoke. We knew they were going to have a real go in the second half, and you know, make no mistake, they had a go today. I think that there's internationals all over the pitch for them, and it was very, very difficult trying to contain them. The quality of the Premier League, it's an eye opener for us, and it gives us a barometer of where we're at and where we need to be in the next 20 games, because primarily it's a league season for us because we need to get promoted. So it just gives us an idea of the work rate that we've got to put in for the next 20 league games, but also it's a great chance to put the names up there in lights a little bit for our supporters, because they are absolutely starved of any success really for a long time. So the smallest amount of success we get, the supporters get right behind us. They've done that again today, and the players have responded, which is the way it should be.
I was actually going to ask you about half-time, because as you say, you had two chances late on in that first half, and you could have been 2-0 or 3-0 up. So despite being 1-0 up, did you have to pick the team up in any way at half-time?
No, I think they were disappointed because they know that the chances were there. Having said that, it's just a case of pointing that out and coming out in the second half knowing that yes, they're going to have a go at us, but also that we're creating chances against them, which gave them an immense amount of confidence. We've got a lot of young players in there. I mean, Jordan Maguire, who's it's his debut today. He's not played for 2 months on the right-hand side. We've got a lengthy injury list ourselves. We're playing Tom Bayliss in there, who's 18 years of age. He's only played 4 or 5 games. I think our midfield probably has only got maybe 20 appearances between them, apart from Michael Doyle, who brings it up to about 720. So there's a bit of experience in it. But we've been really, really good, and I think that every single one of them today was fantastic. We've created opportunities. We've tried to go toe to toe, and when we've had to put our bodies on the line, they've done it, and it's been brilliant. Great day for the club, because it's massively needed in terms of the financial boost that it'll give to us, especially if we can draw a big club. So I'm hoping for that on Monday.
And very quickly, you say it's massively needed for the club. You know, I covered a lot of Lincoln and Sutton last year, who both went on great cup runs, and arguably the cup run helped them as regards not only last season but this season is concerned. Lincoln getting promoted, Sutton near the top of the National League this season. Do you hope that and expect it to give you more belief, more confidence to these young lads going forward?
If today's performance doesn't give them that belief and confidence, nothing will. I mean, they've seen it. You know, they know sort of how hard we've got to work, and keep talking to them about the work rate that they've got to show to try and be successful. You know, they've seen that today. They've felt that today, actually, which is brilliant for us. Regardless of the result, it's a magnificent result, magnificent achievement. and it keeps us in the hat. Like I say, financially, yes, it will help us as long as we can keep going. We're hoping and praying for a big draw, a big club. So as everybody else will be that gets in the hat. So we're no different than that. But for me, primarily, it's about the confidence we take from it and the knowledge we take from that moving into the last 20 games of the league season.
Thank you for putting the headphones on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Chappers.
Cheers. Thank you. Mark Robbins, manager of Coventry, live on Sports Report. To Carrow Road very shortly as our FA Cup third round weekend continues with Norwich against Chelsea straight after the BBC News.
More live Premier League football than anyone else. This is BBC 5 Live.
With the 5 Live News, I'm Nick Hatfield. Donald Trump says the author of a book about his presidency is a fraud. Michael Wolff, the writer of Fire and Fury, claims White House staff don't believe Mr Trump has the mental ability to do the job. Tweeting earlier, the president said he was a very stable genius. East of England Ambulance Service has started an investigation after a pensioner died waiting nearly 4 hours for paramedics. The 81-year-old from Clacton had called 999 with chest pains. Aid workers say at least 10 hospitals have been hit by government and Russian airstrikes on rebel-held areas of Syria. They claim the last 10 days have seen the most intense attacks in a year. And Ladbrokes, EasyJet and Virgin Money insist men and women in the same jobs are paid equally. All three companies have revealed gender pay gaps of more than 15% in mean hourly wages.
Sports Report. This is BBC 5 Live.
So we heard from Mark Robbins, the Coventry manager, after their 2-1 win over Stoke. Let's hear from his counterpart, the very much under pressure Mark Hughes, talking to Ivan Gaskell.
We're not winning games, and the only way you quieten it down is by winning games. That's not what we're doing at the moment. So we've got to turn it around quickly, get a few players back to give us a little bit more solidity at the back. We do that, then we're an okay side, and we're good enough in this league, and we proved that over the tenure of my time here. So we just got to understand in key moments, you've got to recognise it, you've got to address it, you've got to nip things in the bud, and we've got to be better at that at the moment.
You know how this works. It's a results game. People are going to ask questions about you and your situation, your position. What do you say to those tonight that might suggest that you're under some pressure, to say the least?
No, we're all under pressure. My role as obviously the head of football at my club, clearly I will get the focus and the pressure, and I'm more than capable of looking after myself and taking that on my shoulders. Clearly we've got to obviously collectively make sure that we're better adept at dealing with what games throw at us, and in terms of obviously thinking on our feet, I think we're poor in that regard. We need to understand and recognise early danger signals in games when situations are developing, and we need to be more aware. We'll try and do that and try and make sure that we're better next time out, but clearly we need to start winning very, very quickly.
08085 909 693. Stoke fans, I am sure you will want to talk to Jason Mohammed and Robbie Savage this evening. They'll also bring you the latest at half-time on Philip Coutinho. Jason Burt of the Telegraph reporting this evening that he is very close to joining Barcelona for somewhere around £140 million. But our FA Cup third round coverage keeps on coming here on 5 Live. We're at Carrow Road next. Norwich against Chelsea. I think you've just heard the whistle in the background for kick-off. Here are Pat Nevin and Conor McNamara.
Thank you very much, Mark. Well, Chelsea's last game was one of the most entertaining of the season so far. They're 2-2.